this game was so necessary after that Lions loss on Thursday. If Michigan State fans, after the Michigan State loss on Friday, it was a bad sports weekend in Michigan, except for the Red Wings. But until Saturday afternoon, Saturday at noon, the boys came right from the start. It was a really good game. Yes, Michigan won. We're going to get excited here in a minute, but it was a really good game. I never felt like either team was going to extend their lead, going to blow them out. You wanted Michigan to, or you wanted big things to happen, and there were big moments. But man, Michigan had the lead 100% of the game. They made all the big plays when they needed it. Sharon Moore, 3 for 3 on fourth downs. Field goal kicker, what's his name? Turner, 3 for 3 on field goals. But the biggest play to me, and I hope I'm not stealing anything from you, that 22-yard touchdown run from Blake Corn after the Zach Zinter injury.
That was huge. That
injury, that's one of those things that could suck the entire energy out of a team, or what Michigan took it as. It united them. Yep. Just the fact that it happened the next play, to me, I don't want to say the game was over at that point, but you knew Michigan was going to take this down to the very last second. And that's what happened. What a game.
To be honest,
the game.
You want to know when I knew the game was over?
What?
Third possession of the game. Ohio State, it was their second possession. As soon as it was 4th and 1 on the 46, and Ryan Day, there was a decision. I think every single person, whether you're an Ohio State fan, Michigan fan, Michigan State, just a random person watching the game, I think everyone was like, this is if Ryan Day goes for this, he knows what he is the coach. He is that guy, and he didn't do it. He sent his punt team out there. It wasn't even just a 4th and 1. It looked like it was super short. It was
inches.
You probably could have just given it to your running back, or just you could have done the Jalen Hurts, the tush push, and you would have gotten it even with Kyle McCord. And that was right there. I was watching it on my phone. That was when I was like, this is where it turned. I knew exactly when that was going to happen.
Wow.
And I tweeted it out. It's like, Ryan Day, he's a scared scumbag. And that was exactly what happened. And it felt like that. After that, the Michigan Wolverines, they took the lead in a couple possessions after that, scored a touchdown, got the interception, scored the touchdown, and then that was when the game, they never had the lead the whole game.
Yeah.
Michigan dominated, even when it felt like it was getting close. The last drive, I think all of us were, just in any fan or any person out there, you're like, okay, they have Marvin Harrison. This could get ugly. You need to get some stops. But it felt like Michigan had control of that game the whole time. And in the only time where I started to not waver, but I was like, okay, Will Johnson is out, they have that final drive to go score a touchdown to win the game. That's when I was like, all right, we need to get a stop here.
There's 1 minute and 8 seconds left or maybe he caught it. It was a kickoff. He caught it with about 1 minute left. It just felt like too much time.
Yep.
It was. You have visions of them, Mahomes, Josh Allen playoff game. Just the way some football games we've seen here in Detroit have have finished up in the last this year. You just thought something was going to happen at the end, and this is one of the things why. I didn't think Ryan Day coached a horrible game, but there were some questionable decisions. It seemed like every time they threw the ball deep, usually to Marvin Harrison, they would complete it, and usually a relatively easy catch, but they stopped throwing it. They never did that consistently. Travion Henderson was running hard, but he never broke free. I think his longest run was 8 yards. The Michigan defensive line, that front seven played great. But you're right, when Will Johnson went off, you're like, man, I hope they don't just feed Harrison, because it's almost a guaranteed 10 yards.
And I think it felt like there was a little bit of like you can trust your defense a ton, whether it's the Marvin Harrison, because we did talk about it on Friday a little bit when Lucas was here, and I was like, you could probably have a Marvin Harrison just go up and get 60, 70 yards, and you're fine, and score a touchdown, you're fine. He went out there and got 120 basically with the touchdown, 5 catches. It felt like they were getting anything with him, but the way that, like you said, those front seven up front, this defense to me changes the whole thing. Next segment, we're going to talk about the college football playoffs and kind of all of where
future
Michigan stands. And it feels like to me that this defense is I don't want to say that Georgia 2 years ago, because that was one of the best of all time in college football, but it's like that defense you can rely on. And the fact on the other side of the ball, you have a JJ who he showed his arm off. All of those people who were like, he doesn't have that first round talent, he showed his arm off in a big way.
Yeah.
He's done this in different games as well. Yes, last year versus TCU, he had 2 pick sixes, but to get him back in the game, he was slinging the ball. And then obviously the run game. Flannel put the stats out earlier today on the morning show. Shout out JB, the morning show. But Flannel was talking about the last 3 years. If you just look at the rushing yards each game for the both Ohio State, Michigan has dominated every year in the run game. Dominated. And what that does, you get the time of possession and you're just moving the ball up the field. It was like one of those last drives down there.
Yes.
It's a 7-minute drive and you're dominating and no one can stop you.
Yes. And you got some really good stuff on this rundown, but give me a quick answer, your quick thoughts. What were your thoughts on the referees? Like, do you think it was pretty fair? And you could be honest if it was lopsided one way or the other.
I thought it was. I did think it was fair, and they did go review a lot. It felt like, I could be wrong, it felt like it was like they were consistent with the reviews.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was something on the broadcast they kept saying too. Was like, even when they kept going to the booth, they were like, well, they've been pretty consistent this today.
Yeah.
So, and that's what it felt like to me.
So that's what I thought too. And I know that some of the calls are a hot topic, and not even going to get into each specific one, but I think with how the calls were initially on the field, like that Roman Wilson touchdown.
That was a touchdown. It's ridiculous.
I believe it was a touchdown, but the fact that it was called a touchdown on the field, there wasn't enough to overturn it. You wonder if it was called an interception on the field. I don't know if there'd be enough to overturn it the other way.
But I think like even that, like, if you're being realistic, that's like, if you watch like a real football fan, like that was a touchdown.
True, but you see the point. It's like going off their initial like the on, which is how
they did a great job.
You have to prove that there's enough evidence to prove otherwise. And I think there were 4 or 5 really tight ones that I think they made the right call.
I don't like people, and that interception at the end. A lot of people were saying that wasn't. If you act like.
At the very end?
Yeah, go watch some angles. I saw on Twitter a lot of people talking about, like the ball touched the ground, back angles. And it's like, dude, just go watch if you go look at some of the angles, that was a clear, he had his arms underneath. Real quick, I did want to say this as well. I think with this game,
we're being way too nice.
It completely takes away all of the criticism from the sign stealing.
Yes.
Paul Cinnabon, Pete Thamel, Camel, whatever these guys' whatever your guys' names are, completely takes off what you guys have been saying. Like, obviously, you could sit here and say, hey, yeah, they probably did it, but now it proved that every team does it, and it's like, okay, you don't need, like, this isn't an issue now. They didn't have Connor Stallions the last 3 weeks. They didn't have this. Ohio State, it's on them at this point if they didn't change their signs and figure that out.
Yeah.
Like, that's on them. But now I think you can go put it away. I don't know if you see Pete Thamel, what happened on game day.
Yeah, no,
Desmond Howard. I think was it Desmond Howard?
It was Desmond called him out.
It was like, why? Because every week he's in with the fans. He's in the middle, mixing it up, doing his thing. This week he decided to do it in the stadium by himself with security. And Desmond Howard's like, put your big boy bands on.